Brought to you by the University of Alaska Fairbanks, Department of Social Work, and A Conscious Party Productions. You are listening to The Critical Social Worker, a revolutionary storytelling podcast.
A Conscious Party.
Revolutionizing our minds.
Elevating our consciousness.
Changing our worlds.
Your story.
My story.
Our story.
I was also thinking that we could back up just a little bit on trauma.
Sure.
One of the ways in Dr. Gabor Mate's his most recent book, The Myth of Normal, he says, and you kind of said it yourself too, but he says, a lot of people look at trauma as what happens to us, but it's what happens inside of us due to the event. So it's not the event itself that was traumatizing, it's what happens inside of yourself. And, you talk a lot about how that manifests itself in its body, and I still, it's a growing field. Obviously, you work with Dr. Van der Kolk, and most of us should be familiar, and if you're not, check it out. The
Body Keeps the Score.
Body Keeps the Score, yeah. The Body Keeps the Score. So I was wondering if you could just talk about that and give us a window into that. How does trauma manifest itself in our body? I think, like my students would be familiar with adverse childhood experiences, the ACEs and things like that. So they should have some basic concept of it. But can you open that window for us?
Sure. So trauma is any event that's overwhelming for the nervous system, and it becomes psychologically overwhelming. And it becomes psychologically overwhelming when there isn't someone there for you afterwards to help you make sense of things. So the body then gets stuck into fight, flight, freeze, or collapse, a submit response. Dr. Martin Bohus is the president of the DBT Society in Germany, and he's published a lot of papers. And in one of his papers, he talks about studying 60 women, it could be 80, it was 60 or 80 women who are all adults who have had no history of addiction, mental health issues, great boundaries, connection to their feelings, able to ask what they need and to be able to take into account other people's thoughts and feelings in any given dynamic. The other thing these women all had in common was that they were all survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And so how is it that you have this wonderful mental health that most people aspire towards, and yet this history of childhood sexual abuse? Now, the other thing all these women had in common was that they all had someone that they could go to, or they all had someone that they went to who believed them. That was I see that big deep breath coming, right? That was the thing. And so because each woman's circumstance was different, there were situations within which where the person that believed them couldn't do anything about it, couldn't make the abuse stop. However, the fact that someone believed them was the difference between trauma getting stuck in the nervous system and the sanity that then lands that what happened to me was real, and the moving of the distress response out of the nervous system. And so some of us get stuck in fight and we toughen up proactively as a way of preventing ourselves from ever becoming victimised ever again. Some of us get stuck in flight. We're always looking for the exit. We're always sitting at the edges of the room. I've always got other jobs lined up or other partners lined up. I've always got an escape route, perhaps taking geographic cures or flitting around the world, not ever staying anywhere for long enough because I don't ever want to feel trapped ever again. Some of us get stuck in that high freeze of analysis paralysis. I want to, but I can't. I'm overwhelmed with all the possibilities, but I don't actually get anything started. Some of us get stuck in the submit collapse response of why do I even bother, because it's all going to be over soon anyway. And then some of us are stuck in the attach cry response where we inhibit asking for help because we know that there's no one there, or conversely, we're always like scrambling and wanting help and asking for it and not actually able to take in that there are people who are here for us. Yeah. Oh, and the other part of the fight, some of us living in the fight response, is that the corollary of that is some of us have totally inhibited our ability to fight back, because that would have resulted in worse things happening. And so part of the healing process is to actually reclaim healthy aggression. However, our nervous systems have held on to the trauma by disconnecting for our own survival from the whiff of the sniff of any fight energy in us that could be misinterpreted by the abuser as a threat.
What was the term you used? Healthy aggression?
Healthy aggression.
What does that mean, healthy aggression?
Healthy aggression means that I have a healthy sense of where my boundaries are and where your boundaries are, and I don't have brick walls around me, because brick walls can actually be an indication of unhealthy boundaries. Right, you're either on the outside or the inside. It's my way or the highway. And to be able to have a sense of self and a sense of interconnectedness and relatedness while being able to connect to sacred outrage when it's necessary. Because the embodiment of the capacity for healthy aggression contributes to how we move through the world. They did a study of sociopaths and psychopaths in maximum security prison and showed a video montage of people walking through the streets of New York, and they asked these individuals to point out who they would pick out. And they each picked out that 80% of the people that were picked out, 80% of them were the same people throughout all the incarcerated sociopaths and psychopaths that they interviewed. Right, so there's a way in which we carry ourselves when we have the embodiment of the capacity for healthy aggression.
Critical Social Worker was recorded live on Sunday, November 22nd, 2023. Today's episode featured Linda Ty, and it was hosted by Christian Ace Stettler. Brought to you by the University of Alaska Fairbanks, Department of Social Work. This has been a Conscious Party production. You've been listening to The Critical Social Worker, a revolutionary storytelling podcast. Your story, my story, our story. All right, everyone, until next time, keep being revolutionary. Peace.